So there's always like a big biography of the person who's speaking, and they generally cater to उसने PhD किया, और उसने अपना मास्टर्स किया, World Bank में काम किया, IMF में इधर किया. I don't have any of that. I am 20 years old. I am still in college. I don't have any degree to speak of. What I do have is 2 years in India, and that's essentially all I have to offer. So I'll tell you what I'm not going to do, and I'm going to tell you what this talk isn't about. This talk isn't about any sort of political strategy for how to solve an issue. This talk isn't about any sort of analysis for what's going on in Indo populations. ये जो मेरी तस्वीर है, this was at the Indian side of Wagah border. And while I'm smiling in this picture, 5 minutes before this picture was taken, I was crying my eyes out. What happened was that I was sitting in the Indian section. I was with two other people. So they were both from elsewhere. So they sat in the foreigner section very nicely. उनका gate से काफी करीब है. So they had some nice seats. It would be the death of me to declare that I'm Pakistani, so I deserve to sit in the foreigner section. So I sat with the Indians. And not only did I sit with the Indians, I sat with the Indian men, because there was the Indian family section and the Indian men section, which was way, way back. While I was watching the ceremony, there was a bunch of people right next to me that were saying some very scary things actually. They were saying attack, they were saying let's rape their sisters, and that they were saying in Hindi on top of that, so that was scarier than simply saying let's rape their sisters. So, and on top of that, I thought कि यार देखो अच्छा भला गाला हूँ तो कोई इतना बड़ा मसला नहीं होगा, nobody's gonna spot me as being Pakistani. But because I was so scared at that moment, I thought simply wearing a green shirt would mean that somebody would spot me. Because the Indian stands are bigger, they have a guy who's supposed to rouse up the crowd. हमारा तो चाचा पाकिस्तान आता है, यूँ करके खड़ा होता है, चले जाते हैं. They have a guy with a mic whose entire job is to get the crowd as crazy as possible. And that's what he was doing. So it was very scary, and I'm very, very confident of the fact that if anybody had known that there was a Pakistani standing right there, they would have lynched me or something. And I'm not kidding. So it was a very scary moment. But on top of the simple fear that was going through my veins, there was also the fear, there was also the confusion about something. Because ये लोग उसी ज़बान में गालियाँ दे रहे थे जिसमें हम लोग देते हैं. और उससे इसके यहाँ पे जाने से 3 साल पहले मैं अपने CS के दोस्तों के साथ I went to CS programs. I went to the Pakistani side of Wagah border, and then I went with my family. You know, it's fun, हल्ला गुल्ला, चीखें ताड़ें, जो भी करना करें, वो भी हो रहा था. अच्छा, and to be honest, while हम लोग समझते हैं कि हम ज़्यादा गोरे हैं, हम लोग ज़्यादा गोरे नहीं हैं Indians. और so it's really like you're looking at people that look exactly like you, and you're shouting in a language that they can understand, and you're saying pretty much the same words that they're saying back to you, albeit they're not very nice, but I mean you know what they are. So the question then becomes, I mean it's a thought that I had, कि it's really as if you're screaming in a mirror. आप अपनी शक्ल को देखना, शीशे में देखे आप कह रहे हो कि तुम कितने बड़े जो भी हो. But it put a lot of things into perspective, because that border 60 years ago wasn't there. अब उसे इतना हम लोगों ने normalize कर दिया है कि हमारे लिए बहुत मुश्किल होता है to think that this never really existed. ये बेचारे किसी की फील्ड थी, किसी का घर था, किसी की गाय में से इधर उधर जाते रहती थी. Not anymore. India is a big country, and my visa, which I was on, allowed me only to be here. And these are all the places that I went to while I was there. All of this was illegal. I wasn't allowed to do any of this. Actually, the reason why I went there was because I got a scholarship to go to this school to do my A-levels. And I think it's important to note that I have absolutely no relatives whatsoever in India. I don't know anybody in India. I had no connections, I had no nothing. I was simply supposed to go to the school, get educated and come back, and then leave for somewhere else. So that's what I was supposed to do. And this is actually what I did. So, I mean, by this map, I think it's fair to say that I traveled quite a bit and I saw quite a lot. So my input, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I feel that there are very few people that have done that. Now with doing that, there are a few caveats that I want to add. One of them is that I was 16 when I was traveling. Two, I traveled on not more than 10,000 rupees for every trip. So it was a shoestring budget. We were staying in hotels for like 100, 150 rupees a night. So you can imagine staying in some hotel in Sadr, Nazmabad, in some basement somewhere with a bunch of people who are completely your age and are themselves not supervised. On top of that, I also want to make sure that you understand the idealism which was there in this sort of setting. Because we all thought we were the center of the universe because we were all on ourselves and we went through the appropriate tests to get there. So we all looked at India through this prism of idealism and goodwill and intellectual and political curiosity and not that much cynicism. And my poor parents, they had absolutely no idea where I was going, who I was with, and what sort of conditions I was living in. Now when I take you through the rest of this presentation, there are a couple of things which I want you guys to keep in mind. I have some questions which would be good to ponder. One of them would be, what does it mean for everyone here to be a Pakistani? And what do you think for Indians it would mean for them to be an Indian? The other thing that I want you guys to think about would be, what does diversity mean for you? Whether it's a good thing, whether it's something that we should have, whether it's something that we shouldn't have. And when we look at Pakistan, or when we look at India, and we've got so many complaints with everything, especially in the last couple of days, what are the changes that we would like to see in our society, and what, in the end, do we want Pakistan to be? Everyone has their own individual answers to these questions. There's no right or wrong answer to them, but I'd like you to think about these questions while I'm going through the presentation. So with that, I want to start right at the start. These were the first people I met when I came to India. आप जैसे एयरपोर्ट में आते हैं, पाकिस्तानी का एक सेक्शन इधर होता है, बाकी सबका इधर होता है. Now this was slightly comforting because Indian policemen are exactly like Pakistani policemen. उनकी टोन वही होती है, उनकी मूछें वही होती हैं, और वो उतने ही हरामी होते हैं जितने आपको यहाँ पे नजर आते हैं. So, but then, because that might not be the best thing, but it's a thing you could work with. The first time I went there, I went to the police station because Pakistanis. Either it's good for me to mention the sort of restrictions that I was in. First, I was only allowed to go to Bombay and Pune, which is where my school was. They even had the name of the village that my school was on my visa. So I wasn't allowed to travel anywhere. Between the places that I was allowed to go, between Bombay and between Pune, I had to register at one police station saying that I'm leaving, and I had to register at the other the moment I arrived saying that I have arrived. So that they know there hasn't been any place that I went to in the middle. And on top of that, I had to report at a police station within 24 hours of me arriving and report at a police station within 24 hours of me leaving. So those are the first people that I met there. And in the beginning it was really, really horrible. I was 16, I had never had any sort of meeting with a police officer before. And they kept me there for 3 hours just waiting and asking me and heckling me, "Kahan se aaye ho? Kya karte hain? Appa kya karte hain? Kya padhne aaye ho? Kyun padhne aaye ho? Ghar pe kyun nahi pad rahe? Idhar kyun aaye ho?" So mushkil tha. Especially जब police station जाते हैं, they have a separate section for Pakistanis and Bengalis, and they have a separate section for the rest of the foreigners who are there for long term. With the section that I'm talking about, it's actually the corridor which is outside the section for the foreigners. So they put one desk and they put a couple of chairs in front, जहाँ पे उन्होंने एक blackboard पे लिखा हुआ है Pakistanis and Bangladeshis registered here. And inside they've got like 4 air conditioners, splits, and they've got some sofas, and they've got marble tile floor for everybody else. So I was arriving with a friend of mine, who also had to register, and he had to go inside to do his paperwork. And so I could see the difference between the two. On my way back, there was another really horrible experience that I had. I went to another police station, and the thing is, on my way back, it was during Eid. So I wanted to be there for Eid, and so I was arriving in Karachi on the second day of Eid. Also Bakra Eid. So first day, there was bombing in Chasata during Eid fairs, and there were like 60 people there or something. So when I went to the police station first to say, please ask the part stamp देने, जी आज तो छुट्टी है, मैं घर कैसे जाऊँ पता नहीं, या देखिए आप ही का रूल है कि 24 hours पहले करना है, उससे पहले तो मैं कर ही नहीं सकता था. अच्छा फिर आप इंतजार करें, ठीक. And I sat there for 3 hours without knowing whether a policeman was going to show up. The entire time I was sitting outside, so I could see who's coming in and who's going. जब उन्होंने मुझे बुलाया तो nobody came in. There was somebody who was there in the first place. तो ये जो कह रहे हैं कि कोई आया नहीं है, ये पता नहीं क्यों मुझसे कह रहे हैं. So I finally went in,